Well, we saw on American Magic last week that they'd made developments to their Mainsheet system and what looked like it could be a significant improvement. This week we see the same modification made to Luna Rossa's test platform, which raises the question, are they copying? This video, I just want to touch very briefly on what Luna Rossa have done and what the significance of this system is, and a little bit more insight into how it works, because we do get a better view of it on the Luna Rossa platform. So first things first, we just spotted this, or I just spotted this in the latest photos that came out. However, on Sailing Anarchy, it seems like people have spotted that this change was actually made in December, something that I'd missed when we were busy looking at their foil tips. So it's actually American Magic that may have clocked this through the Recon and made this change to Patriot based on what they've seen on Luna Rossa. Anyway, regardless of who did it first, it's a really interesting system, and just to re-brief you on this, my hypothesis, and now I've seen this system from Luna Rossa and looked more at American Magic, I'm fairly certain this is what's happening. So they've got a hydraulic ram which is in this sleeve down here, in the boom on American Magic, and the main sheet goes up to these two rams, the twin rams on each skin, and the main sheet basically pulls down to the traveller, which runs across the back of the boat here, round a turning point and straight onto the ram attachment, which moves horizontally along the deck, sheeting on this around the turning point. Now, is this ram attached anywhere in the front of the boat so it can push and pull the sheet against? No, I do not think that. I think this ram is basically free floating, and it's only attached to this turning point here, and it's basically the ram is kind of pushing off that turning point and pulling the sheet. The only location it needs to be fixed relative to is that turning point, and as long as the throw of the piston in the ram is aligned with the exit of that turning point, then there shouldn't be any torque or movement on the ram at all. It should just basically float there and move with the traveller as the traveller goes up and down. So quite a clever way of still getting the same effect from your system, except you remove the hydraulics from between the sails. So when did Luna Rossa do this? Did they copy American Magic, or did American Magic copy them? Well, jumping back in time to November, you can see they've got the single hydraulic, the pistons there, a cylinder here, and that basically works between the track and the clue boards on the main. So that's the kind of Emirates Team New Zealand system. Now, over the next few weeks, they drop their mast and they go into the shed for a long time, and the next few sails after that, we don't really get a good view of this arrangement after sailing. So I think the next time we can jump forward to is December, and this is the 2nd of December, and here you can clearly see this line here is the new main sheet, and this bag on the deck is where the ram would sit. Now obviously it's slightly obscured in this by the hull, but I think we can clearly see a sheet there rather than a hydraulic ram. So the hydraulic ram has moved to the deck, and this is at the start of December. So yeah, Luna Rossa actually beat American Magic to this system. Why is it so important? Well, if we have a look at this next shot from Luna Rossa, we can see how clean this setup is. The two rams on the main sheet skin, which are, I'm reluctant to call them outhauls because they're not really an outhaul along a boom, they're really just kind of clue boards changing the sheeting angle. But whatever you want to call them, they're on the skins and there's nothing between them, so they're as close together as they physically can be, narrowing up this exit point on the leech, and moving that in gives them a bit more flexibility with the shapes they can put into the sail ahead of that leech. Because if that leech is quite fat, you're pretty much going a straight line forward to the back of the mast. And the masts aren't that wide. It's not like a really thick aerofoil section. It's quite narrow, so having a thinner exit point on the leach does allow you to carry a bit more shape down low, so benefit there. It also means the mass is down lower, which is generally a good thing, and it means that the length of throw on your ram isn't quite as restricted. Obviously, before they had the ram stood up on their end, going up between the skins, and what that means is if you want a longer throw on your main sheet system, be able to ease more, sheet more, then it meant you had to have this horrible effect on your leach for higher up. Whereas this, you can extend that length of that ram to get more range on your main sheet without affecting any of the sail further up. Now you will have obviously that hydraulic ram sat down low, and it probably will impinge on the sail shape a little bit, but as it's the back end of the sail, most of the curve, most of the depth is usually further forward, so there should be less curvature in between the skins at that point, so maybe the ram impacts less on the sail, and it does look pretty nice on this Luna Rossa example. This here is the Emirates Team New Zealand one, and you can see how with their main sheet ram sat between the two skins, it opens these up quite considerably, and you're quite a long way up the sail before they're back together, whereas this is literally just like a foot above and it's back together. Craft & Shore have joined the channel as a sponsor. They, as you might imagine from the name, are marine insurers. Links in the description, and yeah, thanks for coming on board. So I actually think there are some ways you could do this system better and actually remove this main sheet hydraulic from above deck between the skins. So you could take this hydraulic, put it in a fixed location. You then take the sheet to one corner of the track, along the track, and over a turning block, and down to the other corner of the track, and then forward, terminating on the same hydraulic ram. As that hydraulic ram contracts, it's a one-to-one system. It's pulling on both ends of it, a turning point here, and it sheets on one-to-one. However, when the traveller moves, the main sheet runs freely through all the turning points, allowing the main sheet to move around that as the traveller moves up and down. The downsides of that system would be the friction added. So your main sheet would have quadruple amount of turning points. It'd also add friction when the traveller moves, because obviously the main sheet would have to run through its blocks as the traveller moved. So you're not just moving a traveller, but you're effectively fighting the friction of the main sheet system when the traveller moves. So difficulties there. And the final challenge I would see with this is getting the main sheet to run up to the pivoting main sheet traveller tracks that they have, which would again add more turning point to get that align and move along. So challenges to implementing that, but I don't know, I kind of think there's some merit in the idea. You know, what do you think? Where are these systems going? Are they going below deck, or is what we're looking at now effectively the kind of finished article that we'll see in the next America's Cup? You tell me.